Hello, everyone, and it's so nice to see you all again. Today, Uplift Menopause Conversations, we'll be talking to a very favorite guest of mine, and her name is Shelley Caulfield, and she's from Bury Wellness Services. She is phenomenal, and her knowledge of all subjects about is just takes me out. You have so much knowledge, and it's fantastic. A little bit of my mentor too. So let's go, Shelley. Today we're going to be talking about a subject that I've had so many questions about it, and I really feel that we have to bring it to the fore, and that is nutrition. Nutrition in was it's interesting because we all think that it's the same as everything else, your diet or you're not, but that's not really what it's about. It's about keeping our hormones in balance. It's about how we change, we get fat in the middle. What's that all about? How are we going to address it? So let's start with, first of all, Shelley, give me a slight more introduction to yourself for all the people who don't know you yet.
My name's Shelley Caulfield. I'm the service manager for Bury Council. I've been working in behaviour change now for, well over 10 years. Exercise referral officer by trade. I'm very interested in by how exercise is medicine and how different things like that. But ultimately, saying you are what you eat. And I think that you certainly out-train a bad diet. So what we have to do is we have to look at all levels, but it's quite holistic. But I think people with food, it's quite ingrained. We do have some food behaviours. We have behaviours. For example, if somebody's upset, there's a thing that they go for. So, chocolate person, I might be a cheese person. We all have a thing, don't we? We've got to stop vilifying food. Oh, I don't eat bread. If you eat bread, I put a stone on, and you think, yeah, not a problem. It's what you do to bread. If you have a butty twice a week, you'll be all right. But if you slap about half a gallon of cheese on and all this, then putting between the bread could be a problem.
Stop for a second. A butty. Could we just explain what that is? Because half of the women won't understand what you're talking about. A butty is a toasted bread with butter on it. That's a butty. And in America, we don't eat butties. We eat toast and bread and butter.
So it's a bit like if you have a barm cake or a muffin and people like, what do you mean? Yeah, a butty is a sandwich.
Okay.
So nutrition is a funny thing. So what we've got to do, take it right back to brass tacks, go right back to the beginning. Instead of doing diets or fad things or completely having to change what you're doing, my method and the method that kind of works and what most people do is going back, well, what do you actually do? Where are you? Do you know what you're eating? What triggers that kind of thing? And then start as that foundation. And then it's all about making tiny, teeny little changes. Nothing crazy, doing little changes to get you where you need to be. It's a bit like anything. But if you're starting your fitness journey, starting your nutrition journey, it's about being kind to yourself and taking time to get from where you are to where you need to be.
Okay, so me, I must tell you something, because I had personal experience with Shelley, and Shelley has, she's been coaching me with doing keep fit, and she even had coached me with fit. She even had gave me information about eating, and I really saw as soon as I took it on that it started making a difference. First of all, do exercise, which I wasn't able to do for such a long time. And the food part, I really saw a difference the last few days. And I only been doing this for 1 week. So diet. So the first thing I think we have to say in menopause, there is no one diet that works. It just doesn't happen. It's not that way. Diet is a word that already puts you off. You start thinking, oh my gosh, I can't eat, I can't this. And the minute you see that food again, you're off to get it because you've been, it's taken away from you. So there is no such a thing as an ultimate diet to have. That's number one. Number two is starting at the very beginning. I know, certain foods that are better for you in your menopause, and certain foods maybe are not as good. So the thing for me was sugar, but I think that's for a lot of people. But when a client comes to you and she says, I'm really, really having a problem, I am gaining weight just by looking at food, what would your first step be?
The first thing to do is to track, whatever you want to call it, because I think when I meet a lot of people, they're not actually aware what they're doing. And so you'll say, like, and as soon as anybody said, no, my food's really good, I'm eating really well. All right, then that's fine. And then when you ask them about their breakfast, we're going to have another problem now. So breakfast, lunch, and or dinner or supper. Because sometimes I call my lunch my dinner, and I call my evening meal my tea. Okay, for today's purposes, their breakfast, lunch, and evening meal.
Yeah, I know.
So they'll say, oh, really well. And then when they rattle off what they're eating for the breakfast, their lunch, their evening meal.
Yeah.
But then obviously the scales are telling us different. This person's putting weight on, they're not losing any weight. That you can tell that people look inflamed, bloated, and look swollen sometimes in your face. And then when you start to track it, actually the calories you consume in between those meals can be the problem. So I had a lady a couple of weeks ago that wasn't losing any weight, but actually for her breakfast, her lunch, and her evening meal, she was.
Okay.
But then she was having about 8 or 9 very big milky coffees every day, snacks. So she was consuming around 2,000 calories a day in between those 3 meals.
Wow.
So it's like, say, all right, don't stop panicking. Okay. Nobody's put you on a time scale here. Nobody. There's no 8-week rule, 12-week rule. How do we get you from where you are, want to be? So all we did was, so her poison, penguins. Is eating around 7 penguins a day.
Okay, so that's chocolate. Yeah.
Somebody who's addicted to wagon wheels, they're a different kind of chocolate biscuit. But I was like, okay, so you're having seven chocolate these biscuits a day, big milky coffees, and then because she thought that nuts are helpful, nuts are healthy, but she was eating like a bag of pistachios. The bag of pistachios was about 1,000 calories in itself. So I said, right. So what we did was, so we said, right, just for the next week, instead of having 7 milky coffees a day, I want you to have 5. Instead of having 7 biscuits a day, I want you to have 3. And instead of having the bag of pistachios, I want you to just literally start, once a day. She went, all right, but everything else stays the same. So we did that for about 7 to 10 days. Then she thought, I've got this, I'm fine. And we just, like anything, we weaned her off. And so now, fast forward a few months later, she has penguin biscuit every 2 or 3 days. She has a couple of handfuls of pistachios every couple of days, and she now has 1 big milky coffee in the morning. She drinks a couple of espressos and with a little bit of coffee. And literally, all of a sudden, that 2,000 calories a day that she was having and all these snacks and down, we've got her movements up a little bit. The weight's coming off. She feels great. So, and as you can see there, it's about being aware. So you've got to track where your issues are, where are your pitfalls, where can we work on that? And I think once you become aware of where those calories are actually coming from, there's always a story in the numbers. And that's the first thing to do. And then you can comprise that. So if you're able to look at yourself where you need to make some changes, or you actually, I'm trigger eating when I'm emotional and what have you, then that's the thing in itself. But then it's like thinking, right, how can I put more vegetables in? How can I increase my fibre? Can I look at my portion control? And it's kind of like working with what you've got. If that's something you struggle with, you might then need to reach out for a little bit of help to help you create those goals. But the number one thing is understanding what are you actually doing, because I think that actually could answer most of your questions.
Yeah, for me, such a simple thing. It wasn't even when I was eating. Such a simple, he said, said don't have the food at night. Have it, I have a sugar problem. So for me, that was like, wow, just doing that made a difference. I'm waking up and I'm more satiated. I also, I also had, morning I had extra breakfast. Yeah, and I found that really, really interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Okay, so when someone says to you, I am to the age and my blood is bloated and it's just because of menopause, and that's it, that's what's going to happen. I have menopause, so I'm going to get fat. I'm going to gain a lot of weight. That just makes sense. And goodbye, Charlie. I'm not doing anything about it. What would you, first of all, is it true? Is it a myth or is it true about the middle?
It's a myth. So what happens is, as we age, and this isn't just a woman thing, this happens to men as well.
Men too.
So as we age, we lose bone and muscle mass from our mid-30s. Okay, it's a natural part of aging and everything else, and that's why. So you lay all your bone down when you're younger. Your bone does something called ossification around 23, where your bones. So when you grow it, when you're getting growing pains as you're younger, your bone, like you especially your long bones, are starting to strengthen. And about when you're about 23, that's when they solidify. That's when you lay down your skeleton. That's your height. That's what your skeleton looks like. That's your shape. Then what will happen is your bones do turn over, your cellular turnover with your bones, but you do start to lose bone and muscle mass in your 30s, unless you are physically active and you really are looking at that weight, you're moving, using bodyweight exercise, you're doing resistance work, that kind of thing, and in your muscles as well. So a lot of that comes from protein, sources, which can come from chicken, turkey, fish, meat, and plant-based products like beans, peas, that kind of thing. So you do need to make sure that you're fueling your muscles. As we age and we do lose that bone and muscle mass, if we're not looking after it and replacing it and everything else, what happens is your body goes from a higher proportion of muscle and bone, proportion of fat. And what happens then is you need, I'm going to Google this, there is something called a basal metabolic rate. It's like a bit of equation. And it works out how many calories you need just to stay alive. So your body needs calories for your eyeballs to blink, for your heart to beat, for your lungs to work, just to be a human. So that is all dependent on how much muscle mass you've got. You need more calories to sustain your muscle mass than you do a fat mass. So maybe in your 20s and 30s, when your bone and muscle mass is higher, your body composition, maybe your shape is better, you may need, I'm making this up, depending on, like, for example, in my height and weight, I needed 1,400 calories a day to stay alive. Okay, so I do quite a lot of weight training and everything else, but I need at least 1,400 calories to stay alive, and then your movement. As if I didn't exercise, as I aged and I lost bone and muscle mass, the amount of calories would reduce. So actually, if into my 40s and 50s, I didn't start to exercise, I'm not doing anything else, actually, I probably need around 1,000 calories a day because I've got a higher fat mass than my muscle mass, but I'm still eating the same in my 20s and 30s. Hello, menopause belly. And that's what people call it. Now, depending on your genetics and your family makeup, generally where people put weight on, or genetic disposition. For example, I had it on like sort of here, top of thighs, bottom of my tummy. Whereas my friend, he's really neat up top. She's all hippies, a bum and a hips, that kind of thing. And people say, well, can I just take weight off that? That's your genetic disposition. You can't spot change. But that's why we put weight on. So what you've got to realise is that when you become menopause, as you start to lose estrogen, your hormones start to change. Got to really start to work on looking after your body. If you're not active now, how can we get you more active? Because you can see if I need 1,400 calories to stay alive, but then obviously I've got to move and everything else. If I'm eating 2,000 calories a day, but I'm active, I'm in the gym, I'm eating well, I'm putting any weight on. But if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, but you only need 1,000 calories to stay alive, and you're not moving much, your body's constantly storing all that excess calories as fat, as all fat around your organs and subcutaneous, which is what you can grab. So the only way you do that is getting aware, like we said before, start tracking and thinking about actually moving that much. You need all those calories? Probably not. So actually you need to start to track. So actually, what are you doing? And if you're not as active, then don't be eating 2,000 calories a day, or like that lady, she was consuming 4,000 calories a day. Get your calories down, start to monitor yourself. And I'm not saying this is easy.
Nothing is easy. Yeah.
But, people feel very uncomfortable when they put a lot of weight on. Their body image starts to slide. How they talk to themselves is horrendous.
It's terrible. Yeah.
And then the health and their overall sort of confidence takes a dip. So actually, that's really nasty. So actually, would it not be better for us to support you to be a bit uncomfortable? Put a bit of effort and a bit of time into it, but to actually put that slight calorie deficit in, start to get you to move a little bit more, and all of a sudden you start to tip the scales in the other way, and that weight comes off. So what we want you to do is build muscle in the bone, and lose your fat mass.
And that's anyways, muscles to be in good order is very important in later life, because if not, we get into the, to osteoporosis, and we really have to take care of all that. So that's good. Okay, so now understand who cannot do exercise. She really can't. I mean, there are people who really can't do it. Is there anything, I mean, you do other exercises. So I think it's really important to show that exercise doesn't mean that you have to be running around, jumping, moving, and doing, and all that. I think that's what I'm trying to say is give somebody who really can't exercise, running and all that. What would you tell them to do?
Well, I suppose when you say you can't exercise, I mean, obviously through my profession, I believe, exercise, maybe if they've had a really severe stroke and they've been left with certain deficits, or they've got scoliosis, really informed scoliosis, it can affect the spine. They can still exercise. They still have to move, but it's about making sure that you're given exercise that's safe and effective. And also I think exercise can be quite triggering as a word. So it's about thinking about what movement can you do. So I think, and people think I'm like the fun police because I wear lycra for a living. They're like, I don't want to go to the gym. And you're like, it's all right. You don't have to go to the gym. That from your mind, there's no gym, never going, don't even think about it. But what we need to do is we need to get you to be physically active. So it's about steps for health. A bit of that sweaty boob activity. I'm not talking about walking around Asda with a trolley. That's movement. Yes, you do movement, and that's fine. But I'm talking about a bit of brisk walking, weight bearing exercise, get right up, get in. You can do stuff at home. Put some music on and have a right good dance around your kitchen for 15 minutes. A home exercise program, wall presses, you could do a few squats, a few lunges. There are chairs.
And even, Shelley, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Shelley, you give a class and it's all sitting in a chair. A lot of it is sitting in a chair or standing, holding a chair. And I was like, really, wow, there were women there that I was unbelievable. I couldn't believe that they were even able to do what they're doing. And it was amazing to watch. You had how many, like 30 women, and they were all. So to me, that was a big eye opener.
So obviously, I think it's debunking that myth. I think what big part of my job is putting confidence and enjoyment into movement. So we teach classes, I call them strength and balance, but they're based around a chair. And so the chair there, just having the chair there can be this big confidence boost in itself. But what we do is I start you off in a chair, get you moving, and honey, let's not be honest, I don't go light on you, do I?
No, it's really hard. It's amazing. You're really working each part of the body. I found that really, I mean, I did before, all my whatever started, I did a lot of exercise. I used to teach it, but I was used to this whole floor, all that Pilates type of stuff. And it was great. Everyone was able to keep up with that. So for me to see women sitting on a chair at the age, I don't know what ages they were, but it seemed some of them were quite far in their age. And it was amazing to watch it. I know my mom used to do it and she used to get people to do it, but I wouldn't have been able to get that movement out of me anyway. So that's amazing for me.
Yeah, and I mean, every group that you've come to, I think the youngest you've got is 57, and the oldest I've got is 87.
Yes, 87.
So it's gone across 3 decades, and it's all body weight, calisthenics, under tension. So I'm getting you to do. So what that means is that, for example, say we're doing a lunge onto your chair, I'm getting you to go down slow, up slow, control.
But you move our core muscles. I mean, that's very good. So I think that's, exercise already. And I don't want to really go into all that again, but it is important. The movement will grow our muscle, make our muscles stronger. And that's very, very important. Let's go back to food again, because that's what we said we're going to do. So let's say that there's no set diet. And I know, but what are the things that people, let's say bread, like you were saying before, bread is such a bad subject, even myself. I can't have bread. I'm going off bread this whole week. And that's not really what we decided. I mean, we're saying. So I think it's important. Let's talk about the things that have stigma. I call it a stigma. You can't have bread. You cheat. Milk is no good for you. Through all that a bit.
You've got your 3 main macronutrients. So you've obviously got fats, carbohydrates, and protein. What gets vilified is fats. we all say fats are bad for us. Now, we all know that ultra-processed food, saturated fat, is bad for you.
We know that.
If you ever pick up a packet in a supermarket and you read the ingredients list, if there's something on the back of there that you don't know what it is, don't eat
Just
it.
leave it alone.
You wouldn't buy something, you know what I mean? It's like back to brass tacks. So we tend to do that. But fats, especially for women in our ages, fats are wonderful. Fats are a great fuel source for us. Our brain works off sugar in some instances because we give it a lot of carbohydrates, spikes. Now, if anybody's ever been a smoker or is a smoker, what they'll find is that you smoke and then it's that sort of memory, like, oh, need another smoke. Same thing for your brain and for food. So if you operate a lot on high sugars, you'll have a sugary snack, and this is why people said talk about dips and things. But after about a period of time, however addicted you are to sugar, you get that thing and you need something else. So actually, if you can retrain your brain to work off fats, your cravings completely go. And you can do that by making sure that when you have your meals, you have good fats. And your good fats can come from things like oily fish. I mean, that is a protein. It's got a lot of good fats in it. You know, have the avocado. You have things like villainized, for example, chicken thighs, which is a protein, but they're a bit higher in fat than a chicken breast. But actually, they give you that nice satiety. But
they're satisfying. Yeah.
It's kind of looking at that really.
And let's say oils. Or which oils would you say? You know, I know that some oils are really no good for you because they're just they're full of saturated fats. But let's say olive oil or something like that. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Have it. And seeds and nuts have got gorgeous fats in them. Oh, beautiful fats. And so what you're looking for is monounsaturated, polyunsaturated. Lovely. It's what makes your hair nice, your skin nice. People think that if you eat a fat, you're going to put fat on. It's not. And I think we need to talk about this because every cell in your body is made of a fat. It's the cell lining is what's called a lipid, and that's a fat. But there are good fats and bad fats. And anybody that's ever had the cholesterol checked, what your total cholesterol is, but what you're most bothered about is the good fats. So you've got high density lipoproteins, which actually is your good fats, and then you've got your low density lipoproteins, which are your bad fats. And it's interesting to know that when you get your cholesterol checked, broken down, what you'll do is they might give you a total cholesterol, say, of like 5.7, and they'll think that's really high. You need to go on a statin.
Statin.
Yeah, right. Give me a breakdown of my good and my bad, because if you're a very active person, increases good cholesterol. You are having good fats, so lots of like your polyunsaturated fats, like your avocados, your nuts, your seeds, your oils, your olive oils, your oily fish, that pushes down the bad fats, pushes up the good fats. So, for example, I had my cholesterol checked about 6 months ago and I was 5.1, and they went, that's really high. I went, my results. So my good cholesterol was like 3.9, my bad cholesterol was only 1 point something. So I said, so actually I'm all good. So you've got to be really careful of that, because actually you can turn the corner and have really good cholesterol. You do need cholesterol. Cholesterol is really important for loads of functions in your body. So you do need to get really on what a good fat.
I think a little comment that you made about the doctor, which is, to divide it. I would have never known that. And I think that's amazing. And this is going back to all our conversations about never being frightened to ask your doctor. And this is what we keep on saying in every single one of our asks. Don't be frightened to ask your doctor, and try to find out yourself information that you should ask your doctor so that you're informed. I didn't know that about cholesterol.
Yeah, it's good. And I think you've got the things that you were talking about, that the food that gets demonized. So it's looking at that and again being aware. But the main, so fat gets dillified, not so much protein, but for protein, you want to be looking at lean sources, unprocessed meat. So you want chicken, you want turkey, you want to have, meat, things like that, but don't go for your high processed foods. So stay away from things like high amounts of like foods and things like that. Processed foods is awful, because we all like a pastrami or something else, but it's got to be in moderation. Really, you don't large cut volumes, because what they do with processed meat is they put a lot of salt into it. It's not a part of its original form, and then when you look at the packet, they've added loads of things, including sugar. So making sure you've got lean processed, protein. Your carbohydrates, this always gets
This
awful
is
crap.
the biggest vilification stuff going on that one. Where do we stand on that?
It's what the carbohydrates are fantastic. You need them, they're wonderful. But I think first off, quantity. So they'll have a pasta, or they have a rice, or they have a potato. We'll go on to we'll put potatoes to one side. But if they have a pasta or a rice, there's nothing wrong with them. They're wonderful. You need them. They're an energy source. You know, for example, you get an acid called tryptophan, which is a beautiful that helps you feel relaxed and makes you sleepy, calming. So you want pasta's good. We like pasta, and even if you eat pasta at night for your evening meal, quantity of pasta and what you do to pasta. So when you buy a bag of pasta from a supermarket, or wherever you buy it from, on the side it will say grams of uncut pasta, 200 calories. You're eating 70 grams of uncut pasta. So when I've done workshops in the past, I've brought pasta in, I've gone, right, pour out in there what you will cook. And most people, when they eyeball it, a little bit like you do with cereal sometimes, people are having probably close to like 40 grams of pasta, and they think they're just having 200 calories of pasta, where really they're probably having close to 500 calories of pasta. There you go, straight away, we could cut that.
That's, yeah.
And people go, oh, it takes ages. No, it doesn't. It takes about.
I think once you weigh the first time, the second time, the third time, you get to know the weight.
Yeah.
You do it in a cup. If we do it in a cup, then you know, okay, full is whatever. You have to weigh it to know what's going to fit in. But that's really good it's a very simple step.
Rice, most people again consume double what they do with that. So pasta's great. So like a complex carb, so you have to chew it, your body has to break it down in your body, so you get it. So it's not like a quick fix of sugar, like maybe and fruit is really, really good, and nothing wrong with eating fruit. But fruit, when you eat it, it's like an orange or an apple, which has got fibre in it, which you need for lowering your cholesterol, good bowel movements, all that kind of stuff. It's still a quicker sugar in your blood, which is fine if it's earlier in the day because you're going to burn it off for energy. You're doing it later in the night, that sugar can stay high. So what you want to do with complex carbohydrates, things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, pasta, rices, is when you consume them, it's not just that sugar rise, it's kind of energy levels nice and consistent, but again, levels. Then if you have a pasta, what you're putting on it, some chicken with some tomatoes, a load of veg, a bit of pesto sauce, which has got nuts and seeds in for those good fats.
Fine.
But then if you have
it's when you put the ketchup on and the sauce, it's almost 1,000, and then you get your second bowl. It's really understanding about your second bowl, and it's understanding about portion sizes, and that's not diet, that's living a proper life, and that's what we're trying to achieve here. We want to make whatever we're doing now is for our future selves. So that's what we're trying to get, our future selves to be well and looked after, not falling apart, and nobody just lay the rest of their life in bed. So this is what this is all about. Let's go to bread, let's say. Because that was a big opening to me. Yeah.
Bread, I mean, just to be clear, willpower, have things, is like muscle in itself. So using your bicep as an example, if I gave you a weight and got you to work a weight all the time, eventually your bicep would get that sore and tired, it'd stop working, or it'd feel really sore. Your willpower is exactly the same. If you're constantly denying yourself all the things you like, after a while that muscle gets so exhausted that when you do get near bread,
you go crazy.
Absolutely cold.
Yeah.
Bread. But what are you going to do with bread? So if you're going to have a sandwich, sourdough bread is a fermented food, which is full and really good for your gut and stuff like that. But if you just do slices of bread for your lunch, for a sandwich, and on it you put some chicken, put some salad on it, light drizzle of olive oil, a bit of salt and pepper. What a lunch. But again, if you get your 2 pieces of bread, but actually no, you're thinking I'm hungry, so what I'll do is I'll have 4 pieces of bread, and on them I'll put some cheese, some coleslaw, some mayonnaise. And there we go.
So, it's all that, not good oil. No, that is,
not the food police. And if you did that as a sandwich, once now and again, you knock yourself out, do it. But we're talking about in moderation. So what we're looking for is for you to try to be on point with your nutrition 80 to 85% of your week. And then if about 10 to 15% of your week you off, you need a biscuit or you need a whatever, then you do you. Very important. Don't deny yourself things that bring you pleasure. Do what is in your joy jar. Get on with it, because I think life's for living, but like anything, if you have too much of a good thing, something else. So give yourself those things. Give myself a treat. Don't treat yourself with food, because you're not a dog. And
yeah, that's it. It's treating myself, but this is something that's ingrained in our heads. We're young kids. I see myself doing it. My grandchildren come to the house. The first thing they do is they run upstairs to my father's room, knock on his door, hello, and he gives them a chocolate. That's number one. At the end of the meal, they turn around to him and they go, we're finished now. He gives them an ice pop. And these are the little things that are ingrained in us. And it's so hard not to do it, because you want to be sweet and you want your kids, you want kids to be happy. So the truth is, we should be putting aside a little ball or a little something like that instead of that chocolate. And that is a hard thing to do.
Oh, and if we had the answer to that, well, we'd be millionaires, wouldn't we? But I think it's there's not with a bit of chocolate, but it's when, like, some families of the week and giving them a chocolate biscuit, they might have 5 chocolate biscuits, or it's like the overconsumption. I met a lady a couple of months ago, and she said, she goes, I have chocolate every day now, and she's lost loads of weight, doing really well. I have chocolate every day, and what she did is she changed her perception.
Chocolate.
Yeah, she does have chocolate every day. Yes, she flipping does. And what her thing for her was, in the afternoon, she's got quite a busy job, and she goes, takes herself for a walk for 20 minutes, and she comes back, she gets a coffee, and just for 10 minutes, just has a quiet time. And her piece of chocolate now is squares of dark chocolate, a biscuit, one digestive, or whatever her poison is for that day. It's a thing. So she knows that she's got chocolate in every day of her week. It's that thing. Whereas before it used to be,
I want it. I can't have it, so now I'll have a whole bar. Yeah.
It's having willpower, and what it is, it's having yourself to task here. It's going, well, you're responsible for what you put in your mouth, and you do need to take that responsibility. So if you're aware of what you're doing and you understand your triggers, like I do with one of her, she was addicted to like cheese on crackers. So, well, stop buying it. It's like I'd given her the meaning to life. And she said, what do you mean? So, well, if that's your trigger and you're working at home, it's not in the house.
And have it.
Stop buying it, and all of a sudden what you'll find is that you'll get in the afternoon, you're like, oh, cheese. But if you can deny yourself, go and clean your teeth, walk around your house, phone a friend, wash up, the urge will pass. And then what you'll find is, after a couple of weeks of not having it, that habit starts to wane. And you move on to something else entirely. So you've just got to go through that pain barrier to get the results on the other end.
Okay, so one more thing let's discuss before we end. But menopausal symptoms. Is there any foods that will help us through it? Or is there anything that moods and all that? I know that there is things that we could do. So could you recommend anything? Because this is what this is all about. It's about how we are in our menopause years.
I think the main thing is hydration levels, really, really key. So obviously we talk about hot flash and things like that, and brain fog and and stuff like this. So the number one thing is hydration. And you're thinking, what's this got to do with nutrition? But a lot of the time we do eat because actually we're thirsty. And you confuse the two. So you do get fluids from some of the food you eat, especially like vegetables, which are really important. Looking at your veg and your fibre is really key. Looking at your hydration level. So as soon as you wake up in the morning, because remember, you've been asleep, how long you've been asleep, and you can have a sweat in the night, get up in the morning, pint of water down you. So straight away, if you do wake up thirsty or hungry, that can alleviate that. So be really mindful of your fluids, and be really mindful of how much you drink through the day. 2 litres of water a day is fine. If it's really hot, you want to try and up that to like 2 or 3 litres a day, but really get on top of your fluids. Being mindful of your eating as well, and across the day. Caffeine can make you feel a bit jittery, a bit spiky if your coffees. Looking at the high level of milk and what have you in there. A lot of people have sugars and sweeteners inside the coffees as well, so being mindful of that. There's one thing you can do, you can switch to like a keto, which is more of a fat-based product that can take your cravings down. So look at that first. And because if you feel a bit jittery, some people think, oh, I feel a bit jittery, and they eat to compensate for that. But actually, if you did the hydration and
making them more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then think a bit differently about your food. When you get up in the morning, have a bigger breakfast. Fuel yourself for the day. But think about what you're eating. Think about how you're going to sustain yourself. It's not just like, don't just have just a piece of toast, a bit of butter on, because you eat that, you're going to feel hungry probably about 2 hours later. And if you start to feel hungry, then you start to pick. So what can you do for your breakfast? Can you have overnight oats? Oh, if you go on Instagram, there's about 4,000 different recipes. You can make them amazing. Can you have, 2 boiled toast, a bit of avocado, a bit of seasoning? Can you make your breakfast really good? Can you sustain yourself for a good 3 hours of a proper, good fats, complex carbohydrates, protein-based breakfast? Have a look at that. Really get yourself fueled up. And then for your lunch, start to think about that as well. So start to push your calories earlier into the day. And then that's when you're going to move, you're going to burn them off, you're fueling yourself for the day. Start to think about what you can have for your lunch. And the main key thing for this is you need to plan. Plan 15,
that vitamin D, you could get so much from
eggs are amazing, very full of multivitamins.
Okay, let's go out again. You just said such a dirty word. Eggs. Everyone that has this madness in their head. You're not allowed to have more than 1 egg a whole week. Let's debunk that very quickly.
Basically, God's multivitamin, if we're having it right.
It really is. It makes such a difference.
They're amazing. They've got, and what they have as well, which a lot of people are quite low in, is vitamin B12. I mean, obviously, if you understand and, and look at them, and there's nothing, and you do you. Oh, I'm a big fan of that. But if you are vegan, the one thing you cannot get from your diet, no matter how good you are your food, is vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is like the cursor of energy. If you start here with B12, it's like a dynamo. You then need ferritin, folate, and iron. A lot of people talk about anemia and feeling fatigued. Forget the iron, that's least your worries. What about the precursor to that? So B12, it gives you that fats. So I think that it's got cholesterol in it, but the cholesterol you want. And obviously the egg yolk is slightly higher in some of the badder cholesterol, but it's small. And if you're having a couple of eggs a week and you're moving around everything, it's fine. And a lot of people will say eggs are really bad, but then if you look to their whole diet for the week, they're drinking tons of wine.
We know that.
Loads of processed food.
But it's okay. The egg is what's killing them, right?
It's in moderation, but eggs, there's nothing wrong with eggs. Eggs are really good. And if
I think they have, like you just said, in moderation, because I think everything could be vilified. We know that. I mean, there's some people, I know, you could on and on. Everything could cause you cancer, or if it's not cancer, it's a heart attack. If it's not a heart attack, it's I don't know. But it's all about knowing what's right for you.
So fill yourself at your lunch and then see your evening meal slightly different. So a lot of people kind of eat 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then you're going, well, what are you doing after you've eaten? Well, a lot of time then they might relax, watch a bit of telly, that kind of thing. So if you're eating the majority of your calories later in the night, saying before, you're going to then, if you're not going to use that as energy, you're going to store it. So eat earlier in the day, get your calories out of the way, and think of like whole grains, think of like vegetables, think of plant things on top of everything else. And then for your evening meal, maybe you want to have like a salad, chicken, fry, have a small bowl of pasta, chicken and veg on, where you're out, have a small, start a bit differently about how you eat. But
I think this is going to the Mediterranean way of eating. They have their main meal in the day, in the middle of the day, and then it's like salads. That's really what they have. Yeah. Salads and some cheese. So that's very good. And anyway, Shelley, I think me and you have taken this subject quite for today. And I think that people really will get some kind of, I hope anyway, that you get some idea about what's making this taboo about food. Food is healthy. It keeps us alive. It makes us grow. It makes our muscles well. It's just about making sure that we make limits on, how we eat, the size of portion sizes. That's really what we were saying. So portion sizes, it's not vilifying food. It's not saying no. It's about doing one step at a time. And that's what our discussion has been about. And I really thank you, Shelley, for once again coming on to with Menopause Conversations. And I can't wait to see you all. Thanks for joining. Until next time.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.